in order to understand the idea of the world of Atzilus, we started by explaining, first of all, we discussed together the idea of worlds. First of all, good morning, like right away, right away, you jump in, dive in. Good morning, David. Good morning, David. Good morning, Ezra. Good morning, Boaz. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. You can't start right away. So we want to understand the idea of Atzilus. So the first step that we used was to understand the idea what it means worlds. I think we were pretty successful in explaining what worlds mean. Then we want to understand the idea of Atzilus in general, and we started to discuss the difference between philosophers and Kabbalists, where philosophers come from bottom up. Philosophers come from bottom, they come from bottom up, and Kabbalists come from top down. What does that mean? In general, these are two perspectives that people have. In general, these are two perspectives that people have, and usually most people in the world either belong into one camp, in one camp, or the other. You could see this very, very commonly in classes. If you ever participate in a class where the teacher wants to ask a very deep question, it's like usually a class where you need to think, not just regurgitate information, but where you have to think. And the teacher asks a question, either a deep technical question, or doesn't matter, it asks the people to come up with an answer, come up with a formula to the issue, right? So the teacher says, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and in the 5 minutes, you should be able to come up with an answer. The 5 minutes pass, and the teacher says, okay, 5 minutes are up. So there's a very interesting phenomena all over the world.
That's interesting. No,
it's not. It's simply there's a.
It's David yelling and Yehudi. That's 3 corners. Always like does that.
Not in Yehudi. Okay, also because a lot of kids learn over here in the schools, so the buses take their time
The
kids
getting off, so they make traffic. Yeah. You're all welcome. So. The teacher finishes after the 5 minutes, and the teacher says, okay, I want to give the answer. And there you have, usually the classroom will divide into 2 halves. 50% will say, okay, great, we want to get the answer. The other 50% will say, no, we're almost there. Could you please give us another 5 minutes? We want to figure it out on our own. Could you relate to that? What type are you? You want to get the answer, or you want to figure it out on your own?
I mean, I already figured out as soon as the question was asked.
That's true, but hypothetically, it's like something that you didn't. Let's try to think about something that you don't know yet.
I would want more time.
Well, you would want more time. Yeah. Why would David want more time? He says, I want it to be mine. But then let's discuss this argument between the Kabbalist and the philosopher. As I told you yesterday, the Ramchal, Rav Chaim Luzzatto, he put out a book. The whole book is about a conversation between the philosopher and the Kabbalist. Yeah, but it's a made up book. But that's the idea. It's very important to know this conversation.
Which book is it?
It's called Choker u'Mekubal. Choker is a philosopher. Choker is an interrogator, a philosopher, and Mekubal is
the receiver.
Mekubal is a Kabbalist. We're actually going to see that's the difference between a Choker and Mekubal. You're bringing up something very, very, very interesting. That's actually the big difference between. We could also try to see in the words, but let's understand why would David say I would rather figure it out on my own. Anyone over here would say, no, please, I wanna get your answer. I wanna make this argument.
Yeah, okay. Let's say I'm very tired and I don't want to think.
No.
I don't know
No. That's not a good excuse. That's not a good conversation.
Okay.
So I'll take the side of the capitalist, even though I'm most probably naturally more like David. When I grow up, I want to be like David. Not planning to grow up anytime soon, but.
Amen.
Wait, would you say that the Kabbalist would want to get the answer, or the philosopher would want to get the answer?
The Kabbalist.
They would want to get the answer. Right?
Why? What are they going to come and say? Tell David like this: listen, you have over here a math professor. You'll figure out the formula. You might figure out something that's pretty good. This guy will give you the best answer. David will answer back, with all due respect, for me it's more important, even less than a best answer, but that is mine. The Talmud says that a person prefers 1 calf, let's translate it into English, 1 pound of your own produce than 9 pounds of someone else's. So someone comes and says, listen, I have the most beautiful tomatoes. Say, but these are my tomatoes. I grew them in my garden. But that one is so much bigger, so much greater. Beautiful. But this is mine. David says, I understand. I wanna hear. David is not close-minded. He wants to hear the answer of the professor. So, but first let me figure it out. Then the answer of the professor is going to be very nice, and not only that, I'm going to try to compare my answer and his answer and see where I went wrong. But David is a tracker. He wants to figure it out. What is the definition of a philosopher? The definition of a philosopher is choker. Choker means interrogator. He takes the artifacts that he has over here in this world, and from this artifacts, he tries to get to know the Creator. And actually, the Jewish philosophers believe that that's a mitzvah. That God says, you shall know today and return to your heart that the heaven is the Lord, and the heavens above and the earth below. There's nothing else.
Aleinu.
What is in Aleinu? We quote it in Aleinu, but it's Deuteronomy 4, verse 39.
Yeah.
You're not going to look it up anywhere, so I could say whichever. So the philosophers say, how does one fulfill the obligation that God has to us, that he wants us to know him? How do we do that?
Torah study.
Torah study.
To contemplate?
Torah study is you're learning his mitzvahs. How do you know him? By philosophizing, by learning philosophy. Why do you think Maimonides went and learned Aristotle's philosophy? Because it's a mitzvah in the Torah to know God. You want to know God, you have to philosophize. You have to look at the world and draw conclusions from the world. What is God? So let's use a simple example, not talk about a world. Let's say we have over here David as a philosopher. He walks into this room and he's like a real philosopher. This watch happens to be on the table. And he says, this is a fascinating watch. I never saw such a watch. I want to get to know the watchmaker. Watchmaker would make me a watch. Yeah. I want to get to know the watchmaker. So what does he do? What is he going to do? He's going to bring some tools, and he's going to start taking this apart. And he's going to say, whoa, in order to make such a watch, let's write on the board. The watchmaker has to have fine motor skills. Yeah.
Can I make an assumption of where this is going? So if to know the watchmaker, you have to understand the watch. So to know Hashem, you need to know the earth, or the world.
Exactly.
You gotta learn about the world.
Exactly. That's why Maimonides starts his book by explaining the basics of the world. 100%. That's true. It's like you have to know the world and know the creation and in order to know the Creator. So David's taking apart this watch, And he's saying, okay, the guy definitely had fine motor skills. Now he sees over here a very complicated mathematical issue that had to be solved. Most probably this guy was very good in mathematics. And he finds over here notes in Italian, so he knows another two things about the watchmaker. He also knew how to write, and also knew Italian. So let's say Ezra is on the Kabbalist. You're a Kabbalist?
Nice.
Okay. So 3 weeks later, Ezra happens to walk into the office over here and he sees David. David didn't take a shower already for 3 weeks. He's sitting over here and taking apart this watch. and he tells him, David, 3 weeks you weren't here. We thought that you were like abducted or something, God forbid. Like, oh, what's going on? Said, no. I was so attracted to this watch. I decided I have to know the watchmaker. And I took it apart. Every screw, everything is written down. I wrote a whole report, 150-page report about this watchmaker. Now I know this watchmaker. Ezra looks at him and says, oh my gosh, this is what you've been doing the last 3 weeks? The watchmaker was my uncle! The watchmaker wrote a whole biography where he writes that he didn't only know Italian, he knew another 25 languages, and didn't have only fine motor skills, he also had gross motor skills. And he also, and he didn't only know mathematics, he also was a great lawyer. And he loved swimming.
There's much more than the little thing. What do you see?
And you wasted your time three weeks? David looks back at him and says, you don't understand anything. You know about your uncle. So first of all, a lot of the things that you're saying, you don't even understand what you're saying, right? In the example, he knows that there's another 10 languages. But when we're talking about God, the Kabbalist walks in and says, oh, you guys are trying to know God from the world? I say, yes. I say, but God wrote, like the Kabbalah. Say, you understand what it says in Kabbalah. Nothing over there makes sense. Makes sense, but it's like all esoteric things. So David says back to Ezra, you have a book. First of all, you don't understand what it says over there. First of all, second of all, but I wanted to get to know him. So Ezra shouts back, but I have the best information. He says, but I don't need the best information. I want to work it out. I want to find him. The obligation is for me to find him. On the other hand, the Kabbalists say, we would rather not understand, but this is the authentic, this is the genuine information about him. Understand? So even though that Kabbalah says words like sparks of light come out of God's forehead and become Ak, and then Ak turns into, I don't want to make up things in Kabbalah, yeah? But then there's a parsa, there's a curtain, all spiritual, and then the light goes through again, and from that it becomes vessels. It's like, you don't understand. This is considered knowing? It says, yes. The Kabbalist says, I would rather understand less, but what I have is genuine, real information. The philosopher says, and that's why, by the way, like David, the other David says,
soon there will be just one David.
No, we don't want to talk about those. We don't want to talk about the sad things in the morning.
Oh God.
David said before that, what does Mekubal mean? What does Kabbalah mean? Receiving. That's the difference. Because Ezra received the book. David worked it out. He didn't receive, he interrogated it. So whose information is more real? Whose information is more...
Interrogator.
Well, it depends.
Depends what you call real. Again, objective truth is more... Who has a more objective truth? The Kabbalist. But who has it made to be my reality?
Interrogator.
Interrogator.
Awesome.
So the word real could have two different, real to me or real objectively. So again, naturally, and amongst the Jewish people, naturally, some people have more a tendency for this, some people have more a tendency for this.
So you put, like, for example, in a situation, two people have experienced something, one experienced one truth, one experienced another truth, and then you have people that watch those two people experience it and decide from the side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They say in every divorce, there's three versions of the story: his version, her version, and the truth.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I like that one.
That's true.
But really, once you become a bit older, you understand. Obviously, there's objective truth, but ultimately, it's not about objective truth. It's about learning how to deal with our subjective truth and how to change our subjective truth. How to make the. Let's put it like this. Ultimately, in life, it's about making the objective truth become my truth. In Chassidus, this is always called making Havaya bi Elokecha. Making God that is beyond become your life.
That was what the Roman Marash was talking about.
Okay, so you see. I just want to remind everyone that we moved the clock.
Yeah.
So the time of the end of Krishma is very early.
Yeah.
So if you didn't do it, just do it now. It takes a
Almost 7
second.
o'clock.
Say Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Yeah?
I need to do it now.
What?
Just that, not the whole thing?
You don't. The whole thing is a chumrah. You should just do the first two.
Just Shema and Be'afta?
The what?
Just Shema and Be'afta?
With the Eved, you can just do the first two lines. That's enough.
Whoa.
Did the whole thing.
You did the whole thing. That's even better.
Mm.
That's like the Cadillac. This is the Pontiac.
Wait, 7 o'clock only.
It still doesn't work.
No, no, it works. It's going, but it's completely the wrong time now.
No, but I said it yesterday. Okay. So let's focus.
Someone send it back.
What?
It's easy,
No, it's supposed to
so
be
simple, but yet so important.
What?
Shema.
Yeah. Sure. Very simple, very important, and the main idea is like the devotion of doing it. The consistency is the point.
Actually, there was an opinion saying that the reason for exile from the Second Temple was because the Jews neglected Kriyat Shema.
There's a lot of
I
reasons
cannot remember where I heard
There's
that.
a lot of opinions on this.
Yeah.
Second temple. It's because they were interrogators, not deceivers.
No. So guys, what is the advantage of the choker, of the philosopher? That it's it permeates him. It becomes his subjective reality. What's the advantage of the Kabbalist? That he has
Or closer truth, maybe.
he has the pristine, genuine, and by the way, in parentheses, not parentheses, that's what we're going to see over here in the Maimer, that the whole idea of Chassidus Chabad is the integration of both. How do we learn Kabbalah with philosophical tools? Like this, we should be able to integrate Kabbalistic concepts into our lives, understand and internalize Kabbalistic terms. That is the whole idea of the Alter Rebbe, and this is also going to be a part of the formula that we're going to do over here. How is this so important for our Maimer? Because we, yesterday, were trying to find out what is Atzilus. And like Boaz became so excited before, he said, so you have to know the world? Sure. And I want to say that King David in Psalms says clearly the same idea. Let's try to know God. What does it say? He says the following. He says, Hayotzer ayin halo yabit. Not a person. If he created the eye, he obviously could. If he's a God, and we see over here in this world the idea of vision, it must be that he could see. Hanoita oizen, if he planted an ear, halo yishma, obviously he could hear. So basically, from a philosophical perspective, if you want to get to know God, you're going to take all the artifacts of the world, and then you're going to attribute that to God. Now, guys, make sure you hold on to your chairs. You shouldn't fall out. What is That, once you understand this idea, that is Atzilus. Atzilus means God as He is a creator of the world. In other words, like this, let's look at the world, and let's try to understand from this world what's going on in this world. There's love, there's hate, there's anger, there's compassion. If He's the creator, everything has to come from Him. Now, over here needs one small footnote over here to understand that we don't have to say that God has every flower that exists over here in this world, right? You categorize things. So love and water, if you understand the depth of how they work, they're more or less the same. It's a different manifestation of the same idea. Does that make sense, or this needs more explanation? It's the ultimate class for David. We want to make sure that everything is clear. Do you understand? Do you understand the concept? God doesn't have to have water and love. It's the same idea. Okay? For example, the example that he uses over here in the Maimer is the idea of sweetness. What does sweet mean? So before you answer, I want to tell you that there's a concept called a sweet coffee.
And a bitter coffee.
Versus a bitter coffee. Then there's a sweet person.
And a bitter person.
And there's a sweet joke. And even a sweet song. Now, it's very interesting that no one over here explained what sweet means. And everybody understands that if someone would say, oh, for sure, a sweet coffee, a sweet person. What's the connection between a sweet coffee and a sweet person? A sweet coffee is, you taste it on your taste buds. A sweet person, you don't taste them, hopefully, if you're not a cannibal.
You can like buy, but you can understand.
You could understand it, even though there's a lot of good people in the world, but they're not necessarily sweet.
Sometimes you can just tell when someone's a good person.
We're not talking about good.
Sweet.
Good is different. Sweet.
You can,
so,
you
but
can tell you have to have an intuition for it. Maybe your intuition's always right. I don't know.
It's like, oh, this person has grace. What does grace mean?
Oh.
Yeah, but okay, that was more a joke.
Right.
A reference.
No, you're just showing us that we know words functionally, but we actually don't know their meaning.
Okay, but I'm trying to use the word sweet because we understand what the meaning of sweet is. But what's the relationship between a sweet person and a sweet coffee, a sweet song, and a sweet joke?
It warms you up.
Warm? Yeah, we did say warm.
No, but it gives you a good feeling, kind feeling. It gives you a feeling.
But it's not a good. It's sweet.
Yeah.
Could have a very good person do you great favors. Yeah, let's say you need to go to the airport. I'll take you with my car, and it won't necessarily be done sweet. Sweet is not good. Sweet is sweet.
Well, why don't you sleep?
But let's just try to first understand this concept. So what does sweet mean? Depends on which realm it is. If it's in the realm of people, there's a certain type of a person that falls under the category of sweet.
Kind and compassion.
What?
Like kind and compassionate.
Kind and compassionate is not sweet.
Wow, that's usually the synonymous.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. The sweet person is a kind person.
No, you can be very kind, but not sweet.
A very open, revealed kindness, and like a very, very like simple, like they like just like do small, nice things with a big smile on their face.
It also depends on the person. If it's
a person that runs like a whole operation,
if it's
saving 100 people, no one would say that he's sweet.
No, I would say like if it's like between two guys, saying that guy is sweet, he's a sweet guy, or a guy and a girl says he's a sweet guy. It's completely different.
Come on, he's in.
It's completely different.
I actually think that it's they're saying the same thing, but it doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is that everybody understands that in the realm of people, sweet means one thing, and in the realm of food, sweet means the other thing.
Right.
Even though I happen to love jalapeno, right? I love hot, and I actually don't like sweet, but sweet is a certain type.
Right. So it's like I don't think you're gonna agree with my wording. So I'm probably gonna say that like so a sweet person, I guess, and but my opinion is kind, but then also but sweet food is satiating. You know, it's like
It doesn't have to be
Sweet is
savory. I guess I don't know. How do you describe what sweet food with?
Sweet food is just
Not
like
savory.
just makes
Candy
me-
is savory. Yeah. Why don't candy is savory?
No, but it makes me smile.
I don't think you can. I don't think the point is to discuss.
Exactly. We're not trying to discuss the idea of sweet.
Yeah.
We're just trying to say that there's a concept called Seder Hishtalshalos. And that is the point that we're trying to make now. That the idea of Seder Hishtalshalos, of a descending chain, we're over here sitting philosophizing and trying to understand the idea of Atzilus. So when we're saying, when we're looking at the world and all the artifacts of the world, we are going to come to a conclusion. I don't know exactly how to get to that conclusion, but everything in the world falls into one of 10 categories. And then we're going to attribute those 10 categories to the Creator. And that's called the world of Atzilus. The world of Atzilus is God with his 10 attributes. So God has sweetness, God has stringency, God has compassion, God has intellect, God has emotions. Look at everything in this world, and then you'll realize, and that's what basically the Kabbalists, the philosophers that also understood some Kabbalah, maybe they didn't word it the same way, but you look at everything in the world, it has its intelligence, that's its mission. Yeah, the table also has intelligence. What's the point of this table? What is the message of this table? Everything has its intellect, has its emotions, and has its functionality. Emotions is how it connects, and has its functionality, and functionality is actually how it does things. So basically, if you take the formula that is called the 10 Sefirot, everything in the world, obviously there's a lot of different levels. There's 4 worlds, and each one of the 4 worlds has a lot of levels. That's, by the way, hinted in the verse that King Solomon was so smart. Vayedaber Elai Shloishes Alofim Moshel. King Solomon was so smart that he was able to give 3,000 examples for everything. Says Chassidus, why 3,000? Because he was able to take everything, let's say the idea of sweet, and explain it. There's 3 worlds. Every world has 10 times 10 times 10. So the idea of sweet, he would be able to tell you how all the way from God's sweetness, from God's chesed, how it manifests in each one of the levels in the descending chain that we call in Hebrew, how do we call it? Seder Hishtalshalus, the descending chain. Do you understand? Does it make sense what I'm saying? I lost you.
A little lost.
You lost?
A little bit.
Where? What was the last thing that you heard?
No, just the whole idea of the conception of the 4 worlds and the levels. I'm just having a hard time grasping that.
We just gave the example of sweet in the realm of people,
Okay.
in the realm of
Food.
in the realm of a joke.
Okay.
So, if you're a smart person, you have the ability to explain every concept in each one of these worlds. To give a good definition for a sweet person, give a good definition for sweet food, and a good definition for a sweet joke. Which joke is sweet? Which joke is cruel? Which joke is funny? Which joke is corny? Which jokes are dad jokes? Not bad, dad.
Yeah, let's say this corny, but yeah.
Same as corny. Okay, so you see, but if you understand that the world really works, there's only a few concepts in this world. There's 10 concepts, 10 categories, and everything in the world stems from them. It just goes down 3,000 levels. Every concept has 3,000 levels. King Solomon was so smart that he was able to say 3,000 examples. Not 3,000 examples for the same thing. Okay, 1 plus 1 equals 2. 1 candy and another candy is 2 candies. 1 table and another table is 2 tables. 1 coffee and another coffee is 2 coffees. That does make you smart. Smart is when you take concept and you have the ability to bring it down lower and lower and lower. So to come all the way from the loving kindness of God, coming down all the way to a sweet coffee, that is brilliant. And by the way, that's what Adam did. Adam was also very smart. He was able to look at an animal and say its name. What's so smart about saying its name? What's so smart about deciding that a monkey is a monkey and a donkey is a donkey? And you could have decided exactly the opposite. You could have decided that the monkey should be called donkey and the donkey should be called monkey, and we wouldn't even know. Actually, it could be that's the way it was in the beginning. But what does it say in Kabbalah? What's brilliant about Adam that he called the donkey Chamor and a monkey Kof? Because he saw where they come from. So the letters, he understood the power of the letters. He understood how the letters get transformed from one level to another level. So he was able to look at the monkey and see exactly what it stands for, what type of manifestation of energy it is, and therefore he was able to see its name. Right? So, if I ask you after this conversation, what is Atzilus? Atzilus is God's 10 attributes. God, how do I know God has 10 attributes? Because the world has 10 attributes. So it has to come from God. What is the problem? Why is this problematic? Muy problemático. Why is this problematic? Because God cannot have 10. If he has 10,
Limits.
it's a limitation. God has to be one. Maimonides explains that, again, I don't want to become too philosophical over here. That's Rabbi Kaufman's forte. And I'm not so good in philosophy, definitely not like him. But one means not only one. Maimonides explains that one means that he's not composite. So if God has 10, he by himself needs a God, right? Because it's composite. If you're composite, you have to have someone that created you. So one doesn't only mean that there's only one God and not other gods. It has to be one, no details. So over here, Maimonides explains the following. Take all the 10 sfirot. They all stem from the first sfirah. What is the first sfirah? Wisdom. Chokhmah. Is that a good answer? Still, there's a God that has wisdom. If God has wisdom, he's already composite. So what does Maimonides do to that? He says, not God has wisdom. God is the wisdom. God and his wisdom are one. And that is something that created beings cannot understand. So basically, what did we do? We did now, together, a trip to the world of philosophy, which Maimonides represents that, even though there's a lot of proofs that he was a hidden Kabbalist. But at least the way he taught stuff, he acted as a philosopher. He used Aristotle's ideas in order to prove the idea, in order to explain God and things like that. So what is the process? The process is very clear. What is the process? There's a world. The world has a source. The Rambam doesn't necessarily talk about 10 sfirot, but it doesn't matter how many you want. But over here I'm also integrating because in Judaism there was also groups of people that had, like the Ramak, Ramosha Cordovaro, that explained Kabbalah. So a lot of the explanation that I just said is based on his explanations. Then, when you understand that the world has 10 categories, and we're going to attribute these 10 categories to God, then we're going to say these 10 also stem from the highest one. The highest one gives out, and the highest one is not an attribute that God has, it is God himself. And therefore, Maimonides calls God Hu HaYodea, Hu HaMada, Hu HaYadua. He is the knowledge, the known, and the knower. This is a very short trip to understand philosophy on one foot, like so we said, Jewish philosophy on one foot, how we came to a conclusion that God is wisdom.
Is the unity between God and his wisdom at all able to be experienced based on people naturally feeling as though they don't no, it's not that they have a soul, they are their thoughts. That's kind of a natural experience.
Maimonides would answer David's question and say, it's clearly not like that. People are not their thoughts. the biggest proof is that sometimes they don't have those thoughts.
I agree with people are not their thoughts, but a lot like it's a natural feeling to feel that you're your thoughts. So is that a way to feel?
No. We're not talking about a feeling. Maimonides is really like. Maimonides really believes that God and His wisdom are one.
No, but I'm saying, can we understand it better?
You say understand better. No, yeah, I think it's just ruining it. Because our thoughts are so not us. Our thoughts are so our thoughts are like our socks almost. Like if you think about it from a philosophical perspective, you could just change your thoughts in seconds. You have a depressing thought, you could think about a happy thought. So that's so far away from you. There's so many things in you that are so much deeper than your thoughts. Thoughts in Kabbalah are in Malchus. It's your lowest sphere. Your intelligence is much deeper than your thoughts. Your perspective is so much harder to change. It's so much closer to you. What are thoughts? Thoughts. Thoughts are garments. You're thinking in a language. Have you realized you think in a language?
No, I know. I agree.
No, so thoughts would be like such a hard. Such a far-fetched example to explain that that this is you. Yeah. Thoughts we could just switch on and off. We could change them. There's so much stronger levels. I would say if you want to give an example for that, say you and your life. That's much closer to this concept. Thoughts are. You know what thoughts are? Thoughts are literally just like speech, just the way you speak to yourself.
They're like clothes. You just wardrobe.
It's like normal people don't talk to themselves. Some people that talk to themselves is because they want to discuss things with someone very smart, so they talk to themselves. But most people don't talk to themselves. So how do you communicate with yourself? By thoughts. But it's very external. You and your life makes it. That's something much more.
United.
What?
United.
Much more united. So we understand the Rambam more or less. Now let's get all the rage out. Who's the Kabbalist that is going to attack the Rambam?
Who was it, Rabbi?
No. The Maral of Prague. You know the trick that the Alter Rebbe is always the one that tries to combine the opposites. The Maral of Prague has an introduction to the Sefer Gvuros Hashem, and he says, Maimonides, what's wrong with you? We call God the Holy One, blessed be He. We don't call Him the Wisdom, blessed be He. You just gave God a title. You call Him Wisdom. So by the way, who could stick up for Maimonides a second? He says, no, I didn't really call Him Wisdom. I called Him the source of wisdom, because the wisdom that you think that I've called Him is wisdom that a person has. Over here, we're saying that God and His wisdom are one. So I'm not really calling Him wisdom. But still, the Kabbalist comes like Ezra did before, says, what are you talking about? The 10 Sfirot you call the 10 Sfirot God? This is because you're stuck in creation. Just like David was stuck in getting to know the watchmaker through the watch. God is so much greater. God had to go through myriads of levels of self-constriction in order to become a God with the 10 Sfirot. The 10 Sfirot are merely creations of God. I'm saying the word creations, even though it's not necessarily the right word, because the word Atzilus means emanations. But I'm trying to point out a concept that from a Kabbalistic perspective, we have like a whole book of everything going on before the world of Atzilus. Again, who could stick up for the Rambam and answer back to the Kabbalist? He says, I don't care about God. That's what this philosopher will answer. I want you to go in to understand like the argument over here. Boz, you with us?
Yeah, sorry, it's still early.
What?
Still early.
Still early, because that's all because you don't do coffee.
I had a cup. No, we're talking about came back in
What is
creation.
this, decaf?
No, it's not as strong as what you're doing. I had your coffee. I spiked up and then it crashed like an hour later.
I need to drink it more times.
No, we're stuck.
Because you had it only once.
No, we're stuck in creation. We're like Hashem is much greater than all of that.
Exactly! Exactly. Comes Boaz and says you're stuck in creation. The Maral of Prague comes and says, what are you talking about? God is so much beyond that.
Well, if you want to understand
Kabbalah tells us that there is like the infinite light of God, and then God constricted that infinite light, and then He drew down a beam of light called the calf, and then the calf went through so many constrictions until He became the world of Atzilus. What do you mean He became the world of Atzilus? He created 10 hats, and with this, He runs the world. And this is actually the words in the Holy Zohar. When do we say the Zohar? Every week. Let's bring a siddur.
Shabbos, Kabbalah Shabbat.
Exactly. Before Kabbalah Shabbat. Before Mincha on Friday.
So sleepy, bro.
It's still recording, by the way.
Yes, it's still alive. Yeah, we kind of
Don't say something you can't see, you shouldn't say.
Before Mincha on Friday. We did this right after saying Psalm 107. That was instituted by the Holy Baal Shem Tov. And if you're Sephardic, respect that some of you are Sephardic over here.
David.
It's good that we have multi-cultures over here, which is very, very good. If you're Sephardic, when do you say Patach Eliyahu? Every day before Mincha, page 149. And what do we say? And this is like most probably the most powerful place in the Zohar where he explains like the basics of Kabbalah. What does it say? Patach Eliyahu Va'Amar, page 149.
Oh,
149.
I just have one question. Did you already put this thing there? Because it was there.
Wow. Only these things happen only to you.
This is crazy.
What are the chances? So let's see. What does it say? Patach Eliyahu. Let's read, David. It's your ultimate day. So we. But say in a way that we should remember your voice for years to come.
Oh.
Come.
Elijah opened his discourse and said, Master of the worlds, you are one, but not in the numerical sense. You are
Right. So what does it mean you're a one and not in the numerical sense? You're not 1, 2, 3, 4. One and only. Right? You are one, but not in a series. Numerical sense means not in a series. You're the only, not 1, 1, 2, 3. Right? You are. Continue.
You are exalted above all the exalted ones, hidden from all the hidden ones.
Right. Now, what is he hinting over here? He's talking like a Kabbalist, right? Elijah, a prophet, a Kabbalist. This is Zohar, Kabbalah. What are we trying to say right away? What is the first thing you want to say? No, you don't know God. You see creation. No. How did he say before? My uncle was so much greater than being a watchmaker. He is hidden of all hiddenness, for all hidden ones. No thought, continue, no thought can grasp
you at all.
Right.
You are he.
Now, let's see what he's going to say now. This is where he's going to drop the atom bomb. You are
he who has brought forth 10 garments.
Wow.
We call them 10 sfirot.
We call them 10 sfirot. You brought forth. The word brought forth sounds like Maral of Prague or sounds like Maimonides?
Brought.
We have an argument over here. Why does it sound like the Maral of Prague? Because he says he brought.
Because the Rambam said that all the property spelled for wisdom, so it said he brought forth 9 garments because.
No. That's not exactly what I meant. Nice. He brought forth means you're talking from above. You're talking from top down. He brought forth 10 sefirot.
That must be morale.
It must be like the morale. This is the Kabbalistic perspective. This is Zohar. God created 10 garments. Now we're going to see that even though this is a Chabad Siddur, this is a big mistake to call it garments. It should be really 10 adornments. We're going to see. I once taught this in a class, and we wrote a letter afterwards to the Cossack publication. The word garments is a very, very bad translation because as we're going to see. But what is the word in the Hebrew? Let's look. Amtuda, because you are the one that brought forth. Asar tikunin. What does asar tikunin mean? 10. What is tikkun? Is adornments.
The repair.
Is
repairments.
It's repairments. It means like a jewelry. It's an adornment.
Okay.
Yeah, you brought forth 10 garments. Let's just go with the English over here. The Korina Loin Asar Sefiron, and you called them, and we call them 10 Sefirot. By the way, what is the meaning of the word Sefirot, guys? No. Sefirot. All the Kabbalists say the word. It's like sapphires.
Sapphires, yeah. Stones.
It's expressions. Yeah, there is one Kabbalist that also says that it's trying to hint the word number. But also the Vilna Gaon, and also everybody says that the word Sefirot is sapphires.
What's the word for sapphire in Hebrew?
Sapphire.
Oh.
10 Sefirot, through which to direct hidden worlds and not revealed, which are not revealed and revealed worlds. So why did God bring forth 10 Sefirot? In order to run the worlds. That is a very Kabbalistic way of looking at it. God is beyond the 10 Sefirot, and He brings forth 10 Sefirot in order to run the world. He has to create 10 hats. Through these hats, He's going to run the world. But we're talking about God above Atzilut. We're talking about God, how He brings forth Atzilut. For the philosopher, that's where it ends. That's also actually the idea what the Vilna Gaon said. That Kabbalah starts where philosophy ends. Why? Because the philosopher is going to end where? By God's wisdom, and that's where Kabbalah starts. So God's wisdom. So in order, God is so much greater that He brought forth 10 Sefirot. So for the Kabbalist, the 10 Sefirot are merely a creation. Again, the word creation is not precise. It's more of emanation, but it's something that He brings forth. For the philosopher, it's not a creation. This is who God is. And what we're going to see, the formula over here that the Alter Rebbe is how to combine the two, that both are right. And this formula is to change our whole perspective on so many things in the world. And he's going to say that that's the reason why the Holy Zohar uses the word, why Elijah the prophet uses the word tikunin. He doesn't use the word levushim. Later, he uses the word levushim. Let me show you later, when he talks about the world, he uses the words. Look on page 150. Second line, you have made garments for them, from which souls issue forth to man. You have made for them a number of bodies, which are called body garments, because levushim means garments. So there's the idea of adornments. And that is actually, says Chassidus, that's actually hinted in the word Atzilut. The word Atzilut by itself has these two contradictory definitions. What does the word Atzilut mean? Who knows what does the word Atzilut mean? Etzel is close. That is, close is the Kabbalistic approach or the philosophical approach. To say that the Sefirot are close? Philosophical. What is another definition of the word Atzilut? Emanation. Emanation shows on closeness or far or distance. Distant. So from a Kabbalistic perspective, Atzilut is You just brought forth. It's
Far.
not God. It's
Close and
distant. From a philosophical perspective, it's
Close.
close.